Okay, shall we get it started?
It's not, well, they may not live in the same kinds of pods that, say, dolphins live in. They do live in strong social groups, families, and they are very, very social. Once in a while, a single individual will maybe go off on their own for a while, and then they become known as a lone sociable beluga if they start to engage people and so forth. But generally, belugas are very social. When they're in a tank, it may very well be that the individuals don't necessarily get along, and there's really no space to disperse. So it's a very unnatural setting. You can't, it may be that her health increased after the others died because maybe the stress has gone down from living in a tank with the other animals, but that doesn't mean that she's necessarily psychologically healthier or that she should be alone.
The idea of releasing her back to Russia is incredibly complicated. You know, having just participated in the release of 87 belugas in Russia in 2019, and the challenge of moving them back to a proximate place where they had been captured just a year before. So finding where she should be released and any idea that she could be connected to any of the larger social group that she had been in when she was captured is I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's really challenging. And to think that's the appropriate way to maintain her welfare is a huge jump. I mean, it's just a very big assumption about not understanding the logistics of what would be required, both for her welfare and for the people who are doing it, as well as for how it would actually be done and what it would take. So it's a great goal to have, to return them to where they came from. But realistically, it may be much harder on her than it would be to create a sanctuary environment for her that's enriching.
That's a threat. That's a threat behavior. That's what cetaceans do when they want to say, stay away, get away. That's what it is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, having not seen the behavior, I can't say for sure what happened and how to interpret her behavior without seeing it and seeing it in context. But very often, what cetaceans will do is they will approach and then open their mouth. And sometimes they jaw clap, other times they just open their mouth and approach. And that is not, that's still a gesture that says, stay, keep your distance.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. Children are much more animated than adults. And I don't know what the children were doing. If the children were tapping on the window or coming really close or making a lot of gestures, then she'd feel more threatened by a child than an adult who's not as animated. I guess I'll say that, you know, the sanctuary is important simply because it's important to end the keeping of these animals in tanks. The only realistic path to getting to that point is to have that intermediate step, which is a sanctuary, to transfer as many of the animals as you can to sanctuaries where they can lead a much better life, a more natural life, and then end breeding, obviously, so that the whole practice of keeping these animals in marine parks and entertainment parks and aquariums for, you know, display becomes a thing of the past.
You know, to add to that, these whales, the belugas that are in these aquariums, have been performing for adults for most of their lives. And so in many ways, we owe them the opportunity to have a much more enriching life, as close to what we can possibly provide as we can. It's still captivity, but it's captivity in a much more enriching environment, a more natural environment. And we owe this to the animals because we're the ones, we humans have done this to them. Now we need to give them something back, and we actually have the ability to do so if we all work together to do it.